Yeah, I started.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Uh, okay, so this particular session is dedicated to understand the basic concept that we will be utilizing while MuleSoft solution development, like record processing and management. So in record processing, we are basically currently focusing on MuleSoft component such as for each, parallel for each, and batch processing. And then we will move to state management. I'll give you insight about state management, and we will take object store as our basic requirement and move ahead with that. I'll show you why do we require this. I'll encourage you all to have this particular session in an interactive mode. So wherever you feel so, make use of chat window to put your messages. In this particular session, I'll make primarily focus on delivering the entire demonstration. So I'll demonstrate like how can we go for record processing with all the three different methodology. We will even go ahead and demonstrate about the state management. So this entire session is primarily focused to be a hands-on based session, while at the same time there are few theoretical knowledge that or whatever experience I have gained in a couple of years, I'll be sharing that with you all. So let's start with a very basic requirement that when we talk about record processing, why do we even need one? That's a very basic thing that we all need to be clear with. So even in any of the software design world, whenever we will be dealing with, in real-time execution, if you talk about, it's not always about a single record that we will be dealing with. We always have a collection of record that we need to execute. A simplest example of this could be, let's say I want to go for a hike. I want to increase the salary of all of my employees. I cannot go ahead and for every single employee, I can change the record detail. I'll write some logic so that all the details are fetched and each and every record is updated. Now, when I'm saying this updated record, there might be different requirements that will come into picture. You can have a requirement in such a manner that for each and every employee, you need to first check their job description or their role that they are assigned to. And based on their job role, you will go ahead and give the hike. Maybe the people who are already at the VP level might get some hike like 5% of their base salary, and in addition, they will get some stock in exchange. While for a junior developer or the consultants like us, it might be a simple 15% hike on the base salary. So those are real-time scenarios that we have to work with. So this also introduces a new concept that it's not just about processing a record. We also need to evaluate, validate a particular record that we are planning to deal with. So based on the requirement, how we want to process with each and every single record, there are three different scenarios that will come into picture in your real time. And I'm not confining this knowledge to just MuleSoft. This is what we do in any of the software development. So there are three scenarios that will come into picture. Either you will go ahead and pick up a particular record. Once you have record in place, you can go ahead and do the modification. Maybe you just want to evaluate certain criteria based on that particular record and move ahead. It could be as simple as you want to evaluate certain number of employee based on a particular characteristic. Like I want to evaluate that how many employees do our organization have, considering the fact that their base salary is very low, but at the same time their performance have been really great. If these are the requirements that I want to evaluate, maybe I can simply go ahead with a for each scenario. But there could be another scenario that I want to speed up this entire process. Okay. So in that scenario, MuleSoft recently introduced a particular concept that considering the same scenario, but if I want to speed it up, I can go for some kind of concurrent processing. Instead of working on a single record, we can go with multiple record execution at any instance. So we will be talking about this parallel for each also. And in real-time scenario, when you will be having a lot of stuff coming into picture, like millions of records, that's the reality. If you go talk about Facebook, if you talk about Google, the amount of data that they are having and that they need to share between different data sources is enormous. So considering that as our base requirement, if we go ahead, we also have another functionality which is batch processing coming into picture. So these are three main things that we will be talking about. Now, without wasting any time, I will directly jump into developing these solutions so that we can take better time for analyzing our requirement. I'm just starting with a very basic flow. Okay, so this is right from scratch so that even if you don't have any previous knowledge, it won't impact us. So currently I'm making use of Anypoint Studio for this development purpose. The same could be even done using Flow Designer, so no difference between the two. Now, for those who might be new to this MuleSoft world, just a small introduction about what we are doing or what is this tool about. If you have worked on any of these software practices, you might be already aware about this IDE. It's Eclipse IDE that we are making use of. So a MuleSoft plugin on Eclipse IDE, that's what we are making use of in this particular scenario. Under the hood, what we are actually developing would be just a simple Mule application, and that's a Java resultant, Java equivalent, I'll say. That's what we are trying to develop. Okay. So keeping this as the base in our mind, if I have to design a solution, okay, there will always be an invocation method that we will be taking into consideration. So let's say I'll keep it as base. So I'll go for application, which is having an HTTP endpoint. So any interface that you want, you can select it. To keep it simple, I'm just simply going ahead with HTTP listener. Okay. And I'll start doing the configuration for my HTTP listener over here. Just resize my window. I'm going with the default configuration. So these are the advantages why we are using MuleSoft. Instead of writing the line of code, we can simply go ahead and use the pre-configurations. So I'll make use of the default host code, nothing new to do. And in the path, I'll give just simply / for each. Okay, I'll start with the for each. We will take this step by step slowly and then understand how this requirement will come into picture. I'm also planning to keep it a bit standard and simple. So for that, within my application itself, I'm planning to go ahead and create a simple payload, an array with 10 records. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. This is the simplest format in which we can go ahead with this entire data handling. So let's say I have an array of 10 records. Now this could be a very simple requirement, but a really good one for us to understand all of these requirements. Now let's say I want to evaluate whether a particular record is even or not. If it is even, I want to perform certain set of action. If it is odd, I want to perform a different set of action on top of that. So if I want to take one record at a time, and considering the fact if there is any issue with my record, I want this entire processing to be stopped. In those scenarios, we can make use of directly for each scope. I'll drag and drop a for each scope. Now, how does this work? This works on the input as a collection, on top of which it can iterate. So by default, if you don't configure anything, it will always iterate over the payload. Or else you can see at the bottom, you have a configuration. You can give collection as an input. Whatever input you want, on top of it, it will start iterating for the entire processing that we are doing. Keeping it as a base, let me just simply go ahead and put a logger. I'll just drag and drop a logger within my for each scope. And I want to see what is my payload. So using the DataWeave as an expression language in this, so I'll just enable the expression mode so that I can extract the payload from my Mule event. I hope you all are already aware about Mule event, which will be used for sharing the data between different processors in a Mule application. So here, I'm just simply using a payload to show you the data, and let me concatenate that with a simple message. I'll say current record within for each scope. Current record within for each scope is, so this is what I'll keep it as the base, and let me run this application. We will first complete the basic requirement, then we will move to a bit advanced of this for each scope. In the meantime, let me check if there is any chat. So,
I will update you once I will get any message in chat. I will update you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ravi. You can see the application status to be deployed and how it is getting deployed. Let me just take 2 minutes to explain this entire thing. So as I already mentioned that this is a mule application which will result you in Java code, basically a Java binary. So a jar file is being created, and if you evaluate where it actually gets deployed, so it's pretty simple. So wherever you have installed your studio, basically extracted your studio, let's say I'm working with Anypoint Studio 7.7. So if I go to my Anypoint Studio 7.7 studio configuration, in the plugins folder, you will have a tooling server instance. And inside that mule, this is your mule runtime. And if you open application folder, you can see whatever I have created. So my project name over here is demonstration. So the same thing is getting deployed over here. Okay, just an additional knowledge, but a very important one for you to understand. So it by default gets deployed in the embedded runtime of your new application. Now let me make use of advanced REST time to make a call to this 8081 / for each. If I say for each, there is a some response which we are getting back. Now by default, wherever you make use of set payload component, you will get Java output. That's the reason why you are getting this some kind of gibberish data. But the more important data that we want to analyze is, if we go to our console, in our console, I want to see what is the data within my payload. So if you see, it is picking one record at a time. Current record is within for each scope is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. In this, 2 characteristics to remember about when we talk about for each. First thing is sequence of data is very important. So in the same order in which you feed the data to for each scope, you will get the responses back. The second thing that you will talk about is, it will pick, by default, it will pick one record at a time from your collection. Third, another thing that you need to be aware about is, it is always a single threaded operation. So if you see on the left hand side, the same Uber thread, Uber 4, is being used for processing all the 10 record. Okay, so 3 main characteristics you can talk about in case of default characteristic of for each. First thing is, it is always, like let's take from left, it's always a single threaded operation. Second thing, if we talk about one record processed at a time by default, and the next thing that you have is the sequence in which the data is being provided, the same sequence, the data will be processed. So the sequence is still maintained within our application execution. Now keeping this as the base, I'll just do a small modification. Okay. The first modification that we can go ahead would be, if I go back to my for each basic configuration, there are a variable that is created, counter variable by default, which will evaluate how many records are being executed within this for each scope. You can go ahead with that. Another thing is batch size. Okay. Now this is something important for us. Instead of taking batch size as 1, if I do a small modification, if I say batch size 2, and in this, what I have to do is I have to remove this string, because when I say batch size to be 2 in for each, basically it will start sending the collection of 2 record to my application. Now let's wait and check if my application got redeployed or not. You can see started application, which means my application got redeployed. I'll again go ahead with my advanced REST client to trigger the application. And once I come back, now if I check my console, there will be a slight change. I will have 2 records at a time. You will see value 1, value 2, and another value 3, value 4. So instead of pushing 1 record at a time, we are basically able to push a collection, a simple collection of 2 records as an input for processing the data. Okay. These are the 2 things at the basic configuration. Anybody, any doubt till here? You can put that on chat window if you have anything, or else we can move ahead. Okay, no doubt, let's move ahead. Now the next thing that we need to evaluate is what will be the behavior of our mule event once it go inside the for each scope. So let's take a simple example. I'll put a set variable. Rest everything we are already aware about. I'll create a variable. Already we have created a payload. Let me revert back to the basic configuration of batch size to be 1. And I'll create a variable. I'll call it as test var, and the value I'll keep it as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, once I've created a payload and a variable, let me log them. And while I'm logging, I have already logged payload.
Yeah, I can see one question, Abhinav.
Yeah. What is the advantage of batch size? Okay, Vipin. So the advantage of batch size is because this entire for each will have different processor within itself. So sometimes we have certain characteristic which can work on top of bulk. Let's say if we have to insert the data in a database, there is a bulk insert operation that is available to us. Or when we talk about the Salesforce operation, there are certain bulk operation available to us. So this can help us to enhance the performance. Instead of working on a single record, we can still go ahead with a bulk. But at the same time, you can still observe that the sequence is still maintained. Or if you talk about within that collection, maybe the size is the one characteristic that we will talk about. We'll come to that another one more time when we will go with parallel for each and batch processing. Is that okay with me? Perfect. So I have a logger in which I'm making use of payload. I'll say current payload. Then I'll have another logger. Or let me do one thing, instead of creating 2 logger, I'll create it as an object so that I can show you 2 different things over here. Call it as payload. After payload, I'll also talk about variable. So I'll just log the vars dot. If I'm not wrong, I have created by the name test var. Yeah, perfect. I'll say vars dot test vars. That's it. Let me wait for the application to get redeployed. Application redeployed. I'll go to advanced REST client, click on send. It's working perfectly fine. If I come back to console, you can see by default it is saying current payload 1, 2, 3, 4. Variable is giving as null. Let me check if I have made any typo mistake. Why is it giving null? Set variable test where log. Oh, I have given test wheres. That's why it is giving null. Save it, redeploy. And again invoke this entire requirement. Now it's working fine. You can see I'm able to get the payload. If I don't make any change, I'm getting the same variable again and again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The same variable value I'm getting again and again. Now let us start doing the modification to this entire payload. So just after this logger, I'll do the set payload component to modify whatever existing payload I have. I'll say payload into 2. So I'll multiply the entire value with 2 to get the modification on payload. Let me also modify the variable. So I'll say the same variable, remember, test where. I'll say take the previous test where, so where's dot test where, and add a value to it. So I'll just add 1 to it. To keep it more logical, let me start with the initial value to be 0. So that it gives me the total number of record. So within for each, I'm just modifying the entire thing. Let me also create a copy of this entire logger. To re-evaluate what is my payload after the modification is done. Application restarted. Let me first clear the console. Too much content. Go and invoke my application. Now if I come back, you will see that the record values are getting modified. So when the payload was 1, it is getting modified to 2. Variable value getting changed to 1. From 0 to 1. Next time from 1 to 2. Then 2 to 3. 3 to 4. Variable value is getting incremented by 1. At the same time, whatever payload you have, it is getting twice the value that it holds. So 1 is getting to change to 2, 2 is getting changed to 4, 3 is getting changed to 6, and that's how it's keep on modifying. Okay. Let me just do a simple thing that I'll add another parameter. I'll say logger I'll say before processing. First logger will basically tell me what is the data before processing, and in the second logger I'll say after processing. Now we saw the change happening, which means at least whatever logic I am writing, that logic is working perfectly fine. Let's move a step ahead. What if after this entire processing is completed, what will happen to the behavior of the payload or the data that we are handling? So let me just create another logger after my for each scope. I'll say after for each and see the behavior of this entire data. This time I cannot keep it as string. I'll show you the reason. Once you see the output, you will understand why I have removed that entire string. Keeping this as the base, if I go back to console, let me check if the application data has been started. Okay, done. I'll go ahead and invoke my application. Now let's check the console. So you will see still the same processing happening, payload getting twice, variable value getting incremented by 1. And once all the data is being processed, so payload getting to 20 and variable getting to 10 after processing, if I see logger after for each, you will observe that the payload that we are getting is exactly the same that was provided as an input to the for each scope. So I'm still getting the entire array as the response back. So an array of 10 record I'm getting as a response back. But if you check the value of variable, whatever was the final value within the for each scope, we are getting that as the response. So this is one more important characteristic that we need to be aware about, that if we are making use of for each scope, any changes done to the payload will be reverted back once our new event comes outside the for each scope, while any changes done to your variable will remain consistent. Okay. That's it from the very basic of processing the data using for each. Anything else which is important? No, that's it. So now this brings us to some scenarios where what if I want to persist the data that we are having for payload, if I want to persist that particular thing. In that particular situation, you have to make use of some external persistent mechanism. Maybe you can make use of database to push the details, or a queue to push the detail, or object store, whichever you feel comfortable with. You can go ahead with it. Along with comfort, you have to also evaluate your business requirement. How will you persist that data? Okay. Again, first requirement I have given, why do we even require the persistence of data? Okay.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I think there are a few questions in chat window.
Yes, I'm coming to them, taking them one by one. Variable name is test_var. Okay, I have that corrected. This original page is stored somewhere internally. Yes, Rangarao. So there is an internal storage, like how it maintains the status of the record, because if it has to pick the one record at a time from the entire payload. So definitely yes, the state of the payload is being maintained. That happens internally. We need not to worry about it. We'll talk about how these all state management happen in the second section of our today's course. That's it. I don't see what is the about here. I don't see any other question. Anybody else having any doubt with respect to for each? You can let me know. These are all the factors or features of for each. Nothing more in case of for each. If you have any doubt, you can put that on chat window. Any size limit on the payload for each. The size limit is characteristic of your infrastructure in which your application is getting deployed. So it depends upon the JVM heap memory that is being allocated to us. Something not dependent on for each, but on the characteristic of your system. Is that okay, sir? If we are changing batch size to 2, still I will run on one thread. Yes, Harish. The characteristic does not change on how many records will be allocated. It is always a single threaded operation. The only characteristic that gets changed when we make writing as an input. Okay? Is that okay, Harish? Does that answer your question, Harish? Oh, perfect. I thought I lost you. Okay, no issue. Let's move ahead. Let's talk about one more characteristic. Okay, there is another question by Dhananjay. A default variable is created for each, I think, which can be renamed also for the component. Dhananjay, I'm not very clear with what your requirement is. The default variable that is created for each, if you see, yes, there is one. So they not one, there are in actual two if you will evaluate. So if you go to the for each, one is for counter. Okay, another one is the root message variable name. These are the two variables that get created. This is how it maintains the state of the entire record within for each scope. If this is what your question was. Is it okay, Dhananjay? Yeah, perfect. Okay, okay, then let's move to the next requirement. So let me just simply stop this application. We are done with our simple demonstration on for each. Let me go ahead with the another requirement where we will be making use of parallel for each. So again, a simple HTTP listener configured for path parallel for each. And again, I'll go with the same basic rule, setting up a payload with an array of 10 record. And setting up a variable, I'll call this as testware, initializing it with the value 0. Instead of for each, I'll make use of parallel for each this time. And for the first time, I'm not going with any configuration. Let's see if I don't do any configuration, what is the behavior of the parallel for each. If I drag and drop a simple logger and using database, if I pull out payload, let's see what is the default behavior. I'll run this demonstration.
Yeah, hi Abhinav. I think there is some internet issue. I can say like.
Okay, perfect. Application got deployed. Let me
Abhinav, are you
just
there?
go ahead and trigger it. Instead of for each, it's now
Hey, hi Abhinav.
parallel for each. Again, application got triggered. A lot of data coming back. Still, it will be the Java response.
Abhinav,
If
are
the
you able
main
to
thing
hear
that
me?
we need to check is our console. Just 1 second. I'll take the questions in a while. Just give me a
Yeah,
moment.
Abhinav, actually,
So
we are
now, if I talk about this parallel for each, I haven't defined any number of thread, how many threads will be allocated. By default, MuleSoft handled it internally. So you can see a random order being created. So first Uber thread 11 evaluated with record number 9. Then we had another thing. Just 1 second.
yeah. Now it's fine. Actually, I think 2 minutes back we are facing some internet issue from your end.
Just give me
Your
a
screen
second.
was frozen.
Some issue. Can someone please quickly confirm on chat if you can hear me properly?
Yeah, now we can hear you, but 2 minutes back we are unable to hear you. So now I think fine for me. I'm not sure about other. So other
Just
now
a second.
are you able to hear it? Means hear Abhinav?
Thank you, Ajay.
Yeah, Abhinav. Actually 2 minutes back we were facing issue like we are unable to hear you. But now I think it's better. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, okay, you can go ahead. Yeah, but I think your screen. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going back to screen. Can you please confirm if you are able to see my split screen, both my studio as well as.
Still, we can't see your studio, so we can see like your.
Are you not able to see my studio?
Yeah, we can't. Are you sharing your entire screen or you are sharing your browser only? So we can see your browser, but we can't see your. Yeah, now we can see.
Can you
now
see now?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. What about the rest? Sorry for this, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
For
regularly
also
checking my bandwidth, it's working fine. Maybe some software issue. No issue. I'll repeat it. Okay, I'll repeat this parallel for each. So what I have done till now is I've just simply created a payload component and a variable component, and I've just drag and drop a parallel for each scope without any configuration. I haven't done any configuration yet, and I have just placed a simple logger to check what is the payload that I am handling within my parallel for each. And if I invoke this, let's see what is the output that I got. I got the data in some random order. So you can see 9, 2, 8, 3, 5, 4, 1, 7, 10, 6. In some random order, I got the data. So remember, this data we are getting within my parallel for each scope. So within the parallel for each scope, the execution is happening in the random order, and you can determine this characteristic by looking on the left hand side that the thread that are getting allocated, it is in random fashion. It's not a single threaded execution any longer. So you can see over here Uber 11, Uber 2, Uber 10, 3, 7, 6, 5, 9, 12, and 1. So almost you can see 10 threads got allocated to this parallel for each scope. Okay. So first in parallel for each scope, it's a multi-threaded operation. Okay. Second thing, within parallel for each, records can be processed in any order. Okay. In any order, whichever they see to be the faster, they will execute in that particular order. These are the first basic two things that you need to get aware about parallel for each. Okay. Let me go back to the chat window. Anybody till here? Anybody, any issue till here in case of parallel for each, you can let me know. Okay. Ajay, do you want me to repeat the entire part once again?
Okay, better you can repeat this parallel for each part.
Are you still?
No,
Ravi,
now
everything is there still a lag or you're not able to see?
No. Now we can see you, but I think at that time only they missed parallel for each part.
Ravi, I cannot hear you if you are saying something.
Okay, no, I'm saying now everything is fine. At that time only they missed parallel for each part.
Network is correct. Can someone else please confirm if there is still any issue? If you can hear me, okay, it's fine. Thank you, Ravi. Then let's continue back. So I'll just give a quick recap of what I have done. So I just for each scope within my flow where I'm having a logger being placed. So without allocating any kind of, see, there is no configuration that I have done. If I check what is the payload condition that I'm dealing with, I'll get order. I'm getting the entire payload in the random order, and if we evaluate the threads being allocated, you can Uber 11, Uber 2, Uber 10, Uber 3. Okay, threads are getting allocated in the random fashion. So the here in case of parallel for each is that uh, it is a multi-threaded operation, and with the for parallel for each scope, the records will be executed in any random order based on the processing. Whichever record gets processed first, you will be able to see the resultant being generated. So that's the reason why you can see the order getting changed. 9, 2, 8, 3, 5, 4, 1. Okay. So this is what we are trying to deal with. Okay. I can message from Kundan which says I can't hear anything from Abhinav. Is it the same for all? Are you all facing the same? I've stopped even the mic so that I can have a better way. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect. In that case,
yeah.
I've stopped the video so that I can better use the bandwidth. Okay. So let's try to continue with our solution first. So I'll again start modifying my payload. I'll go to the logger, and in the logger, I'll create a, let's say, logger. Before processing, and I'll check my payload, my variable, which will be vars dot text var. Key characteristic: logger before processing, payload, and the variable. 3 characteristics we will be checking within the parallel for each scope. Let me save and wait for the redeployment. Complete it. In the advanced REST client, I'll simply go ahead the flow, and in my console, you will see that I'm getting the payload as 135, the variable value to be 0, whatever we have initialized it to be. Okay. Now, let's move ahead. Let's try to work on few more characteristics over here. Now, when we are talking about, let's go back to Studio. The be executed in parallel. So that is decided by max concurrency. So I'll set, let's say over here, max concurrency to be 3. I want at any given instance. Now again, an important statement over here. When I'm setting max concurrency to be 3, I'm saying at any instance, maximum of 3 record to be executed. It's not that exactly 3 record to be executed. So it's a maximum of 3 record that need to be executed. Keeping this as the base, if I try to trigger the application, and if I come back and check the console, you will observe that the order in which the record are processed now has a pattern. Okay, so you can see first, second, and third getting executed first, maybe in any random order, but first 3 records are being pushed. Then next 3 records, 4, 5, 6 are pushed. Then next 3, 7, 8, 9, and finally the 10th record is being pushed. Now within, we have already understood one fact. Within parallel for each scope, we cannot guarantee the execution sequence. Okay, but how we are pushing the data inside, that we can check with the help of our max concurrency. So here we are sending 3 data at a time. So 1, 2, 3 was sent. They were executed in any random fashion. And the same thing you can even observe with the help of thread. So at any instance, if we see over here 227, 3 records are executed on thread 5, 15, and 14. You will never see more than 3 records, 3 threads being spawned up at any instance. You can see over here 3 for this at 32, 33, 33, 3 another record 14, 55, and 16. Okay. So this is the second characteristic. So at any instance, we are able to evaluate that, okay, there will be 3 threads that will be running in parallel. And again, the order in which the data would be executed, we cannot guarantee it. Okay. Let's see the next characteristic. Or let's see if there is any doubt first. What is the maximum value that we can use for max concurrency? Ritin have asked that question. Ritin, to answer this question, you need to be aware about how the threads are being allocated within any new application. So there is always a cap size on threads that will be allocated. By default, if you go to the JMeter and check, not JMeter, JVisualizer, it comes embedded with your Java. You will observe that by default, at the initialization of application, there are 8 threads that are getting allocated. And depending upon the processing, what will be the data that will be processed, it could go max up to memory minus, what is the memory allocation by you, minus 52760 divided by 5120. That's the calculation, okay, of maximum number of threads that can be allocated. Is that okay, Ritin? And Aditya also asked the same question. Is that okay, Ritin? And yeah, okay. Next question is from Uday. Batch size in for each and max concurrency in parallel for each will function in similar manner. Uday, no. Oh, sorry, Uday, no. That's not how it works. Batch size is, it will define what is the record that you want to give for processing. So do you want to load a single record to your thread, or you want to load like a collection, more than one record? So when we change the batch size to 2, we were loading an array of 2 records on a thread. So that's a different characteristic. Here, when we are saying max concurrency, we are defining the number of threads that will be available for execution. Okay? Okay. Sorry, Ravi already answered this question. When do you have constraint, like you can't process in parallel?
I can see one question, like someone asked, like in which scenario we should not use parallel for each.
We will come to it. So first I'll explain all the 3 scenarios, and we will take the condition also. Will that be okay if I park this question? That's the reason I'll take that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll come to it. Vamsi says, what is the default max concurrency? Is it default 2 into CPU core? Vamsi, no, that's not how nowadays in Uber thread pool. That's not how the calculation are done. So it's changed calculation. I'll show you later. Is the reliability in terms of server is the only deciding factor between parallel? Vamsi, reliability is not the application designing. It's how you design your. Sorry, it's not about solution development. It's about application development. Reliability is altogether a different concept altogether. It has nothing to do with this parallel for each of these. Reliability's pattern is simply, if I have to answer in one line, reliability is once you get the data, how will you ensure that you have not lost the data before processing it? That's all reliability is all about. Is that okay, Mark? Perfect. Let's move ahead. Let's try to do some small modifications. I'll again do the same thing. I'll do the modification with respect to my payload. So set payload. Again, using the same logic, I'll say payload into 2 and set variable. So I'll use the same test where and set the value to be whatever is the initial value plus 1. So test values dot test var plus 1, and then I'll just duplicate the logger to evaluate whether the changes have been done or not. I'll say after processing. After processing the data, what happens? Let's go back to the console, application redeployed. I'll clear the console so that I can show you better the data sent. You see over here the changes. So here if you observe, payload, initial payload I got 1, then 3, then 2. Variable value I'm still getting it as 0. For the first time it is giving me the value as 0. Next time it is incrementing it to 1. Again I am getting 0. Again it is getting increment to 1. Again I am getting 0. So all what is happening is, before processing the variable value will be 0. But after processing, due to our logic that we have written, the value is getting incremented by 1. But as soon as the next set of record will start processing, the value will be reinitialized to 0. So this is a difference. If you remember, in case of for each, the variable value was getting incremented after each invocation. But here if we observe, the value is getting reset to 0 and incremented by value 1 within my scope. Okay. While at the same time, if you observe the payload value is getting incremented twice. Let's see now the final thing, that if I move outside the parallel for each, what will be the impact on payload or the variable value? Now, keeping this as the base is our actual logic coming into picture. This is where we will understand a few more additional configuration. If I invocate this, if I observe my console, rest everything remains the same. I need to check what is my after processing. Okay, sorry, after it should be after parallel for each, but it's okay. If we evaluate the payload you will observe that whatever changes we do, we are able to still persist those changes. So you can see over here, payload is getting changed to 2. Initial load that we sent was 1. And the sequence in which the data was provided will also be maintained. If you see the final resultant coming outside the parallel for each, the sequence in which the data is available is still maintained. So we can talk about, let's say, 1 getting changed to 2, 2 getting changed to 4, 3 getting changed to 6, all those changes happening over here. And if I go to the final thing, which is variable, the value of variable is again reset to the initial value, which is 0. So a small change over here, if you observe, whatever changes were done or within my payload, those changes were persistent, while there was no impact on the value of the variable that we are making use of. In addition to this, there will be a slight change in the structure of payload that we are getting as a response. Now we are getting an array of object as the response. So it's very simple. You can go ahead and make use of data weave expression to pull out all these values. If I have to pull out the value, I can write a very simple data weave expression. I hope you all are already aware about it, that it's a simple, what I should say, descendant operation that we will make use of. So I'll say after parallel for each, and in the payload, instead of you writing payload, I'll say payload dot dot payload. This is how you make use of descendant operator. Let me check for reinitialization. Clear the console, and if I trigger the application once again, you can see the final payload getting generated, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20, while the variable value is set to 0. And this is after parallel for each. Okay, so this is how parallel for each work. Now I'll first take, if there is any doubt with respect to parallel for each, then we will move ahead. Anybody, any doubt with respect to parallel for each? You can put that on chat window.
No, Abhinav, we are good to go ahead.
Okay, perfect. And let's move ahead. Next thing that we need to look into would be batch processing. We talked about for each, we talked about parallel for each. Now let's go to batch processing. So an HTTP listener with set payload and set variable, after which we have a requirement to create a batch job. And I'll go with the basics. So in this first, the default batch job that we have, I'll just have a logger to see what is the payload that we are getting. So I'll start from here. No configuration, everything happening by default. I just drag and drop the component. We will see first the default behavior and then we will move ahead. The value set to 0. Set payload. Payload set to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And listener configured to the path /batch. That's it. Run the application. Application deployed. One issue with batch step, not issue, but one characteristic about batch is that it gives you a lot of logs. Let's see that. Go with the batch. This is the what we get, like what all steps are happening under the hood. And if I talk about the payload, I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Though it is looking in sequence, but there is no guarantee of it. Okay, there is no guarantee that it will be always executed in sequence. That's something which we cannot assure you about. Okay, and after everything is getting processed, you will get one resultant being generated. How many records were processed? Over here you can see 10 records were processed. How many of them were successful? So 10 were successful. How many failed? 0 record failed. This is how the entire processing will happen. Now let's go and make use of this batch step for some logic purpose. Again, keeping the base same, let me just copy paste the logger value from initials. And I'll just do the modification again. Set payload component to modify the data. Payload into 2. Set variable to test where, taking the initial value.
Hi, Abhinav.
Tell me.
Abhinav, Ritendra here. So, can you go to the batch job once? I have a question.
What do you want to do at batch job?
No, I wanted to see one configuration. I wanted to check.
We'll come to it. Batch job configuration will come. I have not started with it. I'm just doing with the simple logic. So I'm building step by step. Whatever we have already seen, I'm just building on that. Then we will go to additional things. Will it be okay if I take it a bit later?
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, perfect. So, like whatever we have done in parallel for each, making changes to the payload and variable. That's what I am about doing over here. me see the impact. Before processing, then made change, then after processing the record. Application deployed. Configure it. And if I check my console, I should have two kind of data, before processing and after processing. The first, before processing payload mode. Even before that, from here onward. So before processing, payload was 1, variable 0. Payload got changed to 2, variable got changed to 1. The next payload came into picture. Payload 2, variable, again you can see it is set to 0. And payload getting changed to 4, variable getting changed to 1. Okay. Now remember, one important thing over here, we will understand this, that if we talk about variable, whatever you are doing with the variable, for every record, a new instance of that variable is created. So if I say over here, the variable value which is getting changed, let's say from initial 0 to 1, it is only getting changed for the record which is having payload size to be 2. Okay, and I'll show this. I'll even justify this, how we are doing this. So, but the payload data will remain persistent. Let me do a simple, one more simple logic over here. Okay, a very simple logic I will be about to write. That's my tool. Okay. Just give me a moment. Getting constantly called from somewhere. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, hi all. Meanwhile, I am sharing one link. If anyone want to join our Telegram group or WhatsApp group, so you can join using that group, using that link. So let me send me in chat.
This someone on call. Okay, I'm still. Let me go back. So what I'm planning to do is, in this batch processing, I'm trying to create another variable which will just help me to evaluate that whatever payload I am getting as an input, whether that payload is even record or not. Okay, so even I will name the variable to be is even, and to check whether the record is even or not, I'll write a simple logic whether the modulus value of payload when divided by 2, if it is equal to 0. So you can evaluate that when I'll be writing this data weave expression, as soon as the payload when divided by 2, if the modulus is giving us 0, it will set this record to be even. And I already mentioned that this is a instance variable that we are creating. So it will get attached to each and every single record. So I'll be able to identify whether a particular record is even or not. Now, let us evaluate whether the thing, whatever I said, is correct or not. And to evaluate it, what I'll do is, I'll create another batch step. Okay, I'll create second batch step, which will be only working for even records. Okay, only work for even records. Now, how can I decide whether it will only work for even record or not? There are two ways by which I can handle it. Either I can create my own custom acceptance criteria, which I'm about to use over here, or there could be some default acceptance policy. So let us go step by step. I'll first go with the acceptance expression over here. So I'll say, so remember, in DataWeave, you can write, so not in DataWeave, in MuleSoft, you can write DataWeave anywhere. Either you can make it use in script. If the script option is not available, we try to identify that expression mode. Even if that is not available, go ahead and put hash and a square bracket within your code, and it will be treated as a DataWeave code. So that's what I'm doing over here. In acceptance criteria, I'm writing DataWeave code without any script or expression mode. I'm simply writing where's dot then is even. Okay, vars dot is even. So for every record, it will check what is the value of variable dot is even. If it is true, it will go inside this for each record. Okay, so let me just move this logger, and I'll say inside batch step 2. Inside batch step 2. And I'm checking what is the payload and the variable value that I'm getting. So let me also introduce the variable 2. Is even or not? How can we check that? Okay, that will automatically be checked in case of scope. So let's now go further. So let me see if the application is getting deployed. Application got deployed. Let me clear the console and re-trigger my code. Now let's see a few things. If I start following the logger, you can see processing payload 1, 2, and that's how it will keep on going. I want to see the logger which is inside batch step 2. So there will be a code where I will be able to see, you can see over here, inside batch step 2. And if you evaluate from wherever you will get inside batch step 2, the value will be only even. Payload set to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Because if you remember that in my first batch step, I have changed all the value to the multiple of 2. So I'm getting all the 10 record over here. Payload set to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay. And the variable value still persists. For each and every record, the variable is getting enhanced to value 1. So I also logged it to show you that value is basically we call it as a record variable. In Mule 3, there was a dedicated variable by the name record variable. But in Mule 4, that is replaced. So if you place a variable within batch scope, it will behave as a record variable, and it will be attached to every single record in that batch step. Okay. So these are the two things that I wanted to show. Let me do one thing. If I revert back to a simple logic, let me say I'll not increase the payload to twice the value. So that I can show you that it will only give me 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. If I'm just keeping the payload to be same, application redeployed, and if I trigger my flow, in this case, whenever I'll check inside batch step 2, I'll only get 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, which means my acceptance criteria is working perfectly fine. I'm getting acceptance criteria only even record to be printed. And I can also observe that for each and every payload, whatever variable size we incremented from 0 to 1, I'm getting that value as a response back. Okay. Any doubt till here? Anybody, any doubt till here? You can let me know. Anybody, any doubt? You can put that on chat. I can take it from there. Okay. No doubt. Let's move ahead. That brings me to the one more characteristic. We talk about the acceptance criteria that we created on our own. Let's talk about another logic that we have, acceptance policy. So let me do a simple thing. I have to fail a particular record. So what I'll do is I'll make use of choice operation in my first step. In my first step, where if the payload is, let's say, if the payload equal to 7, I will try to fail intentionally this record if the value is 7. And if it fails, how can I fail it? I'll make use of raise error. I'll call it as, let's say, my colon custom. You have to always maintain the schema, which is namespace colon identifier, and in description I'll write a logic. So I'll say hash within square bracket failed to execute record with value, and I have to give the value, so I'll take it from payload. Now, for in default, it will continue processing as it is. I need not to do anything. Okay. If it is for 7, it will fail. For default, it will continue processing. Now, to work on this, I have to make first change to my batch job. This is the first change that you need to be aware about. If I go to my batch job, by default, the max failed records is set to 0. If I keep it 0 in that particular situation, what will happen is it will fail. It will not continue further executing. But I want to show you the execution. So I'll change it to value, let's say 5. It will allow up to 5 records to be failed, and all those records which will actually fail, I will handle that in another batch step. Okay. So let me drag and drop another batch step. And in this case, I will only accept failure. Let's say only failed record. That's what I'll log inside batch step 3. So here I'll check whether I'm getting my payload, which is set to 3 or not. Okay. Let's check it. Let me go for the free deployment. Already redeployed. Trigger my application. I come back to my console. So you can see the execution type. There was a count of 1 which failed. 10 records were executed. 9 of them were successful. 1 failed. Let me see what is that one particular value that actually got failed. So if I see over here, logger, inside batch step 3, payload value is 7. So actually I'm failing for the payload, which is 7. Okay. So this is second way by which you can handle if there is any kind of conditional operation within batch step. First way was to create your own custom expression. Second thing is, based on the failure condition, you can create your own logic. So we do recommend that break your entire business requirement into small functionality and keep those functionality in individual batch step. Now, why do we recommend it? Again, very important step that I'm about to tell. When we talk about processing of this entire batch job, how it is done. Now we are done with how it executes. But let us understand how this entire processing is done. And after that, I'll take your questions. So whenever you try to do any kind of batch operation, there are 4 steps that will get executed. The first step will be loading. The second will be dispatching. The third one will be execution. And the fourth one will be on complete. Okay. Now, when we are talking about loading and dispatching, let me show you an image. Can help us to understand this better. Yeah. Okay. Perfect example for us, because in our batch job also we are having 3 batch step. So let us understand how this entire batch step will get executed. The first two phase that we are talking about, which is loading and dispatching a particular record, is something which we basically happen under the hood. So we cannot see that, but it happens under the hood. So what happens in actual cases, the first characteristic which is defined, if I go to back to my batch job, there is one characteristic by the name batch block size, which is set to 100. Okay, now this is the deciding factor of how the loading will happen. If I have set the batch block size to be 100, so what will happen is from the entire set of record, there will be block size of 100 record each that will be kept in a queue. Okay, by default, it is a persistent queue that will be configured by default in case of batch job. So the entire data in the block size of 100 record would be kept in a queue and it will be loaded on that particular queue. Next thing will happen is thread allocation. So the default thread allocation for batch job is twice the number of core on which the application is deployed. So like in our machines, since the laptops are octa-core machine, that's the reason why we get 16 threads allocated for us. Now what will happen is at any instance, 16 thread will pick up one block each. Remember, they will not pick a record. They will pick one block each and then they will start executing. Now, when they are executing, the execution always happen in the sequence in which the batch step is created. So this is again a misconception that, okay, any batch step can get executed in parallel. No. The record, for a record, okay, remember, for a record, the execution always happens in sequence. So our thread will pick up and push the data to batch step. And within batch step, one record at a time is executed. So I'll again repeat the step till here. Depending on the batch block size, there will be a block of record that will be pushed into a queue. And a particular thread is responsible for the entire block. Now, when the execution will start, each and every single batch step will only get one record each per thread. So by going the default configuration, there are 16 threads that will be running in parallel. So there will be 16 records that get executed in parallel, but one thread is responsible for entire block, first 100 record. When the entire block will get executed, the block will be pushed back to the queue and thread will first check that is there any another block which is available to be executed in batch step 1. If it is, then it will pick that block and again start continuing batch step 1. Now, once all the blocks are exhausted, that either they are executed or currently under execution. So there can be two scenarios. If they are already executed by batch step 1 or they are currently under execution, in that case, if any thread is available, it will have no further block in the queue for executing with batch step 1. So then it will pick the block, the next block, and go to batch step 2. So this is the scenario when we can say that there can be a situation in which both batch step 1 and batch step 2 are running in parallel. But that does not mean that a record can go to any batch step in any order. It needs to check whether that particular block is already executed by batch step 1 or not. Now, once all the processing with batch step 2 will be completed, then it will go to batch step 3. This is how the entire batch step work. And once all the records are executed, it will move to the final phase, which is on complete. And in an on complete phase, you basically get the batch job result. Okay, your batch job result. Let me show you a sample batch job result. One second. Batch. Okay, I don't have current image of it. Let me do a simple thing to show you. Oh, I can show it simply in Studio. So if I click on batch job and if I go to output, you will see the resultant, which is batch job resultant. And if you open that, maximize this. If you open that, it will contain details like batch job instance ID, time elapsed, few of one which are important like failed record, success record, processed record, total number of record. These are few important characteristics that you might have to make use of while making use of batch job execution. Okay. So this is how batch job work. One more characteristic that we need to discuss in this is the batch job scope by default is asynchronous in nature. Let me explain what I mean by that. So if I minimize this batch job, okay, and after this batch job, if I place a simple logger, which gives a simple message after batch job, a simple message after batch job. If I run this application, I should get this message after batch job even before my batch job have been completed. So let me invoke this for one last time.
Yeah,
You
Abhinav,
can
I can see a couple of questions. So when you will get free, means perfect, so you can take those questions.
Yeah. This is last thing that I'm telling. I'll take questions just now.
Okay.
Yeah. So you all can observe now over here that I'm getting first the message which is after batch job, even before my first batch job got executed. So this is another important characteristic that you need to be aware about while designing a batch job operation. If you are keeping anything after batch job execution, it will be invoked asynchronously. So this entire scope is expected to be asynchronous in nature. Okay. So these are few default configuration that we need to be aware about while working with batch job. Now let me start taking the doubts. First, stop the application. Okay. We didn't completed the configuration. We talked about, okay, scheduling strategy is a different thing. So scheduling strategy, I'll park this question because there's something for which you need to be aware about the architecture. Like when we talk about scheduling strategy, we are talking about that when multiple instances are running in parallel, how will those instances get executed? Like if there are event of 2 or more instances for the same batch job, what will be the order in which the thread will be allocated? So we say it is in sequential order. So if there are 16 threads, they will be allocated in the sequence in which the data is available. Anything else? Yeah, even over here, we can go ahead and create max concurrency, whatever is the maximum amount of threads that you want to allocate to be running in parallel for your application. Now, let's take the questions. Go back to my meeting. Yeah, I'll start with one thread will execute all record in a block. Am I correct? Yes, Ritin. So a particular thread will be responsible for all the record in that particular block. But remember, within a step, it will execute one record at that time. That's important thing. In one record is processed by only one thread across the batch step. No, Adit, there is no such limitation that it will be executed across all the batch steps with the same thread. So a thread will pick it up, responsible for only one particular batch step. Once it is done completing that particular execution, it will drop that entire block back to the queue. It can happen that another thread which is available can pick that particular message. So there is no such limitation. Is that okay, Ritendra and Adit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you please repeat about batch step what you said?
Okay. So there was a question from Adit which mentioned that is one record is processed by only one thread across the batch step. So that's not the limitation. So let's say thread 1 picked up a block size, executed the batch step 1. It has no limitation that it will only be responsible to execute batch step 2 or batch step 3. Once the batch step 1 is completed, it will push that entire block back to the queue. And then the decision making. Is there any other record is available? If it is, maybe that thread 1 will pick the record and go to batch step 1. And then another thread will pick the new processed block and go to batch step 2. So there is no hard and fast rule. Is that okay, Rajan?
Okay.
Yeah. Adit, was I able to answer your question? Yeah, perfect. Next thing is, Reena, may I know how many block at time is processed with a batch step? Reena, that will be decided by number of threads allocated. That's what will decide how many blocks will be executed at any given instance of time. Is that okay, Reena?
Abhinav, Vamsi here.
Yeah, Vamsi, tell me.
Yeah, so suppose we have 105 records, okay? So with the batch block size as 100.
Yes.
In such case, there will be 2 threads allocated, right?
Yes.
Yes. So we have 2 batch steps. Let us consider. So thread T1 will take care about first 100 records. It will process batch step 1.
Okay.
Record by record in the sequential manner. Is that correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Record by record in the sequential order for that block. Yes.
Yes.
Next.
So once thread T1 complete entire 100 records, it will put that messages back to the queue.
Yes.
Yes. So the thread T2 will be there, right? Whether
Yes.
it will process parallelly or it will wait until thread.
No. It will process parallelly. So since you have 105 record with default block size to be 100, there will be two threads that will be engaged at any instance because there are 2 blocks that are created. By the default configuration, there are 16 threads available. But since there are only 2 blocks, so 2 threads will be running in parallel, T1 and T2, let's assume. So T1 will take first 100 record, T2 will take the next 5 record. Once, let's say T2, since it only have 5 record, it is done executing, it will push that message back to the queue. So now 15 threads are available for further utilization, while the T1 is still executing the first 100 record. Once it is done, it will push that entire block of 100 record back to the queue. Now, all the 16 threads are available. Any of them can pick that 100 record. Or in the meantime, the rest of the 15 thread can go ahead processing the second batch step with the 5 record that were processed earlier by T2. Is it okay, Vamsi?
Yeah. So one more additional point here. So if we have 16,000 records, let us consider.
Yes.
So we have 16 threads and each allocated with 100 records. In that case, every thread is occupied with the 100 block size, right?
Yes.
So whenever it completes the batch step 1, it will be free. So
yes.
So it will be used across all the batch steps, right? Whatever thread is free.
Yeah. In that case, since you are blocking all the 16 thread, so as soon as the thread will not 16,000, I will say the calculation will be 1600 record. So 1600 record, if you are having in that particular case, if you go with 16 thread, 100 record each by default configuration. So as soon as, let's say, T1 is done with execution, it will drop the message in queue and it will observe that there is no further block available. So it will simply pick up that particular record and continue with the next batch step.
Okay. So in meanwhile, if we set max concurrency as 3, so it will not affect the processing, right? It will just parallelly process 3 records at the time. That's it, right?
Yes. Yeah. At any given instance, there will be only 3 execution that will be running in parallel.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks for the explanation.
Yeah. Welcome. One batch step 1 will be completed execution for all record, then batch step. No, Shivam. There is no such limitation that all the records should be executed in by batch step 1. The limitation is in the queue, there shouldn't be any record that is available. So it can happen in real time that few of the records are still under process by batch step 1. But you can see the other record getting executed by batch step 2. So the limitation is on queue. That in queue, there should be no further record available for the processing by batch step 1. Is that okay, Simran? Does that answer your question? Okay, perfect. Let me go back to the question by Rangarao. All records are loaded at start. Yeah, only block size records are loaded. Rangarao, all the records loading basically happens based on the instance ID. So all records are loaded on the queue depending on the block size. That statement is correct. Then we have question from Dhananjay. Is the record to have one thread only process one block and not all the thread parallel? Dhananjay, these are the configuration. This is how the MuleSoft have configured them to be. It's nothing that logical, like every solution that is being offered, this is how it is being handled by MuleSoft. Just to maintain, like you also want some kind of responsibility by the thread. You will understand if you go to any architecture course, you will understand that the thread switching operation is again a very, very exhaustive process. So we need to avoid thread switching also. Too much thread switching will be a lot of issue. Okay. Next thing, is there a scenario that we can go for each or parallel or for each inside the batch step? Again, entering in that case, if you put a for each or a parallel for each within batch job, you are basically we can do that. I won't say that we cannot do that, but no requirement as such. If you evaluate within the batch step, you will only have one record at a time. So what is the collection that you are planning to work on? Because for both for each and parallel for each, you require collection. But when you talk about batch step, only one record is available at any instance within the batch step. Is that okay, Antonin? Does that answer your question? Perfect. Vinod says, I missed today's session. What is this session will be available? Vinod, I think you have not missed much. It's just a basic we are doing, very basic of for each, parallel, for each and batch job. Next thing, Harish, how to decide on the block size of maximum performance. Okay. Yes, Harish, I was coming to that. So when we define a block size, the main characteristic that we talk about, there are two such parameters. First thing is a payload size. If you have a huge payload, in that case, we try to remove the batch block size so that you do not exhaust the memory. Because again, remember, the thread will be loaded with the entire block. So if you have a huge payload size, it will block the entire memory and it will create a lot of issue for execution. While at the same time, if we talk about another characteristic, which is processing. So if you have a complex processing happening within your batch step, in that case also, we try to avoid having a huge block size. So these are the two characteristics which will help you to identify what will be the maximum block size. Is that okay, Harish? Does that answer your question? Thank you. Can we use HTTP request or JMS publish subscribe inside the batch step? Simran, you need to understand the requirement. This is again purely based on the requirement. Business requirement is something that will come into picture over here. So I think for the basics, like considering the today's scenario, I think we should put this question aside. You can connect to me offline on LinkedIn or something. I can help you understand that requirement, but if I go to that extent right now, maybe that will create a lot of doubts in the participant. So I'll avoid that question right now. Is that okay, Simran? We'll take this question. You can ask me offline. This question, you can put that on channel. We will make use of it. Is that okay, Simran? Perfect. Let's go to the third question. Let us say while processing batch, we use the raise error component with type app customer to fail some record. Is there a way to see how many records failed because our customer on complete phase? Because of our custom error? No. You will not be able to see because of your custom error, and that's the reason why we can make use of our acceptance expression. Using your own custom expression, you can create a new counter, Siddharth. You create a new counter and maybe push that counter to get the information how many of your record failed due to your custom error. Is that okay, Siddharth? Okay. Let me take just another 5 minutes. I have already crossed my time that was allocated to me. Sorry for this. Let me take one more thing because we are left with one important characteristic in batch job, which is batch commit. This is again very important characteristic that you need to be aware about. So batch commit is something which we make use of whenever we are having any operation that can support the execution over a collection. So let's say I'll move these even record within a batch aggregator, and I decide the aggregator size to be 2. If I keep the aggregator size to be 2, now instead of 1 record at a time, it will wait for 2 records to come. So inside batch step 2, I should see collection of 2 records. And remember, it's a maximum of 2 records, not that it will always wait for 2 records to come. Let me save this and wait for the redeployment. Application restarted. If I trigger my application, let's check where I can see inside before processing, record got failed. Inside batch step 2, you can see over here in inside batch step 2, payload size to be an array of 2 records or collection of 2 records, 2, 4, 6, 8, and there will be 1 record that will just hold a single data. So 2, 4, 6, 8, I should also be able to see 10 somewhere. Let me check. You can see over here inside batch step 2, it's only having 1 record. So a maximum of 2 record it will wait for. Now this is useful wherever we have the operation such as bulk commit. You have a database operation, let's say, which support bulk commit, or Salesforce operation which support bulk query. So in such scenario, instead of hitting the backend multiple times, you can create a bulk logic and push the data accordingly. Okay, so this was the last thing which we had in case of processing the record. A small change I would like to do. Ravi, I will require your input. We don't have much time left. So will it be okay if I maybe I'll take the state management in some other session?
Yeah.
Will it be okay?
Yeah. Okay, fine.
So we can stop our today's session over here, just on processing the record.
Yeah.
Because I will require at least half an hour, 45 minutes for that, which we are not surely available.
Okay, so we will arrange another session for that.
Yeah, maybe. Yes. Okay, so do you want me to continue with the quiz, or do you have something?
Quiz, yeah, I have created Kahoot, so we can go with that.
Yeah, sure. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, so for 5 minutes, you can take if anyone has any query. So after.
Yeah, sure.
So
Sure.
now everyone, yeah, you can ask your query if anyone has.
Vinod, MC again.
Yes, Vamsi.
Yeah, so in batch processing, we can have this reliability concept, right? Because whenever there is a system crash or something happen, the same step
Yes.
the same step it will process again. Will it be possible?
Yeah, that happens by default because your queue that we talked about, where loading and dispatch happen, that is by default a persistent.
Yeah, will it be
So you can
possible
observe this.
parallel for each?
No. So in the rest of the mechanism, you have to do state management.
Okay.
It's only in case of this particular batch processing where it is internally using a queue.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you.
Let me take another question, which is by Akshay Jujure. Akshay, streaming is a concept. So instead of loading all the record in memory of your application, how we do in use of this? There are certain operations which by default support streaming mechanism. So we give I call it as a block or a set of record at any instance of time instead of loading the entire record. We call that as a stream of data. Okay. So now with Mule 4.3, even the batch processing supports streaming the data. So instead of loading all the record, you can go with the stream of data. So from the source component, it will keep on picking up the detail as and when required, and then you can make use of it. Is that okay, Akshay? Does that answer your question? Okay. Next thing, Vijay, when you use batch aggregator size is equal to 1, it will result in error. Then we use streaming. Vijay, you have to understand the concept that when you are saying batch aggregator, you are waiting for some set of collection of data to come. So at least more than one record that you want to come. If you want at the real time, which is batch size equal to 1, you can go ahead with streaming. At the real time itself, it will keep on pushing the details. Okay. That's how it can go ahead. Anybody else? Anything? Ravi, do you still have time? Should I ask few more things, or do you want to continue with Kahoot? Okay, another question from Parimal. So Parimal, yes, there are differences. So differences is based on the deployment. Like in case of RTS, you can have replication factor. So all those characteristics do have impact on batch processing, but maybe nothing that not something which we should talk right now. Maybe we can take that later. You can connect to me offline, and we can take this question offline mode. Is that okay, Parimal? Perfect.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm sharing my screen, so Abhinav, you can stop sharing your screen.
Yeah.
So,
I'll stop sharing. Yeah. Okay. Okay, then thank you all. Ravi, you can continue.
yeah,
I'll mute myself.
yeah, thanks, Abhinav. This is a very good and informative session. So for recording, actually, I want to give you information. Like for recording, you can join this group once I will upload the recording and I will post in that group. And even you can find in our Hong Kong meetup page. So you will get everything, all the resource like PPT, and I think PPT is not required. Recording I will provide there. Okay. So I have shared that link. I am sharing again. So let me share again. So whatever update we will have for Hong Kong meetup, I will provide in this group. And we will wait for your feedback, and you can suggest new topics also, like what all you want to see in next meetup. So you can write in your feedback. Okay, so we'll start with Kahoot now. So let me share link first, and then I will share game ID. So you can use this link for either you can use your mobile or you can use laptop. But make sure like question you will able to see in my screen. So you should arrange two devices here. Or if you have only one device, then divide it into two parts. Then only you will able to answer. Okay. Now I am sharing my screen with game ID. Okay. I hope everyone able to see my screen.
Ravi, we can see it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll wait for 30 seconds more. Then we'll start our game. So there will be 9 questions, and whoever will correct maximum answer with minimum time, he will get, and 3 winner will get this training and certification voucher. Nowadays, I can't see like they are providing certification voucher. I don't know exact reason, but yeah, you will get training voucher definitely. Okay, we'll wait for 5 more seconds and then we'll lock this game. Okay, fine then. Okay, so I'm starting this quiz. So you have to answer in minimum time and maximum question. Okay, so we got 17 correct answer. Okay, so I'm moving for next question. Before that, let me stop this recording. Yes,